City. Went to Winston-Salem, coached a couple other places down in the East Carolinas and South Carolina State at Howard. The opportunity to come back home, he did that, and has taken his program piece by piece and put them into not only a contender for CIAA, but also, I'll tell you, if this is a team that gets a chance to get an NCAA field, I think they can do some damage.
We get Coach Richardson, and he does great. 3 championships in 5 years.
Yep.
Taylor goes over to Union, the Hampton, and then they start ratcheting up. But then we got Richardson leaving. You're the AD, and it's time to find a new head coach. And you go to a familiar face, but a first-time head coach in Kermit Blount. Talk about.
Now, that was a real interesting deal, Stephen, and I'm glad you brought that up. The late Coach Cleon, the late Chancellor President Cleon Thompson, he called me in to a meeting at his home, which was already over here at the Chancellor's house in Washington Park. And he said, we're gonna have to find a football coach. At that time, one of the outstanding coaches, assistant coaches we had on our staff, Coach had on the staff, Richardson had on the staff, was Shepard. Now, Shepard was a sharp, defensive-minded coach. And that's who everybody thought was going to be the coach. He was just that sharp. However, President or Chancellor Cleon Thompson, he bent and fell into who the alumni wanted was Kermit Blount.
It's that's no better feeling to be able to go back home and work and go back to where you started. I remember, I think I was out recruiting at South Carolina State. I was down in the Myrtle Beach area recruiting. And of course, at that time, we had no cell phone. So, nobody could get you, or, you didn't call home until after you were done, that evening or that night. So I called home, and my wife says to me, she says, they've been calling here, trying to get you, and they're calling you. I mean, you've gotten 50 phone calls. I like 50 phone calls from who? And she said, well, Winston people are trying to get you. And I said, well, why are they trying to get me? And she says, well, I think Coach Richardson left and they're trying to get you. And so I ended up making a phone call to, it was at Roseboro, I believe it might have been. Mm-hmm. And he told me they wanted to interview me and, for the head job. Coach had left. And so I go back to Orangeburg. And let me back up a little further, Stephen, because this is the knowledge that Coach. This is when I talked about Coach Willie Jeffers having that instinct and knowledge. Mm-hmm. Willie Jeffers called me in the office before we went recruiting, and he called me in one evening. We were in the office late that night. And he called me and he says, "KB, come in here a minute." And I walked in his office and he says, "It's your time, right?" And I looked at him. I said, "Coach, you trying to fire me or something?" He said, "No, boy." He said, "Your time is coming." And I'm like, okay. I said, "What time is that, Coach?" He says, "You're going to be a head coach soon." So he knew something that I didn't know. And I go recruiting, and then I get these phone calls. All of a sudden, Pete Richardson left. He's going to Southern. And I know Pete very well because Pete was on the staff when I was playing. Mm-hmm. So I know Pete Richardson very well. And but anyway, I made the phone call to Roseboro. They wanted to interview me.
And I think they felt as if, and I can't argue that fact. They can't argue the fact that they wanted to reward Kermit not only for what he had done as a player, mm-hmm. but what he had done in helping change this whole basketball school to football school. And that's primarily what Coach Hayes was brought in for, to change this total image. I understand you all like basketball, but I got a little kid over here that works across the street at Wake Forest that can change that thing. Mm-hmm. So he had to get quarterbacks, Stephen, that could help him do that. And that's what he did. And those guys that I named, Cornell, Kermit Blount, Hayward, all of these guys, and they were players, Stephen. They could play. So that changed the image, and they wanted to reward Kermit. So I gave Chancellor Thompson my recommendation to get Shepard as the football coach.
I go back to Orangeburg. I let Coach Jeffries know that that I'm gonna go interview for the Winston job, and of course he gave me the green light to do it. And I came up and I interviewed, and I think I met Cleon Thompson at the time, who was the chancellor. In fact, I met Cleon before I met anybody. Mm-hmm. And we had a little private meeting, and he says, "You know what? You my guy. Don't you? You go back to Orangeburg. You wait to hear from Roseboro and Mr. Burke. Act like you're excited, but you already know you the guy." And I'm like, okay. So it all worked out.
Chancellor Thompson told me, "I appreciate your recommendation, but we're going to hire Kermit Blount."
It speaks to the importance of for a chancellor of athletics, right?
That's right. He was. Yeah.
Because like you said, the athletic director said one thing, but the greater alumni, the people that they were gonna hope with, pay the bills,
has spoken.
Right.
And you know what they have to understand in higher education, and this is a true fact. You can make all the recommendations you want to, but there's only one individual that has the ultimate authority to hire and fire, and that's who?
Chancellor here, president, and other places.
That's it. That's just how simple it is. So it doesn't make how many recommendations what you might think of the individual that you want to bring in. That's the way it went. And that's how Kermit was given. It's not that I didn't want Kermit as an AD, but I was going on the fact of what was on paper and he had proven himself. Mm-hmm. Shepard had proven himself as an assistant coach for the contributions that he had made. And of course, Kermit had established himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the NC2A and at Winston-Salem State.
We got some experience with Jeffries over at Howard and South
Carolina State. Two of the best.
Mm-hmm. So he played for Hayes and coached under Jeffries. So
you can put them back, Stephen. You can put those won and losses together, and you won't have a better record than those two guys.
So we get Coach Blount here, and it took a little while. Had to go through a rebuilding job, but finally he got the school back on, the football program back on the good footing, and win the championship in '99. Kermit found his guy in Woodbury.
See, it's all about. People talk about football, basketball, and all of these sports, but as you know, Stephen, it's all about players. And when you get players that can change a program or change the image of a program, such as a Torrey Woodbury. I mean, these are guys a guy that has tremendous football mind and can play. And that's what made the difference. That's why Woodbury is so loyal to Coach Blount now, because Coach Blount believed in him, and that made the difference.
But it was just an honor to have so many people pushing and pulling for me to come back, and you know, you can't. There's not enough thanks for those people who supported you. You can tell them thanks every day, and it's not enough. But to understand the feeling that you have to go back to your alma mater and go back to where it all started for you, it was just something special.
You know, not to keep you too long, but what has it been like for you as someone who played football here when, we were a basketball school, and to see from Coach Hayes to Coach Richardson to Coach Blount to Coach Maynard, all of these guys and the players that have come through to see, WSSU and, become a football program, and now, as the expectations that are here now, that now certain it's a whole generations of us just expect to win.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say this, Stephen, and I want you to put this in proper context when you do your program.
Yes, sir.
Because I love it. You can't let your expectations exceed the resources that's available to you. Now, I said this to the past administration prior to Chancellor Brown and 2 other administrations. I told them, until you get the proper resources in place to make the playing field even, we're not going to be a good football school, because it takes resources. Now, you can sometimes skate in basketball because you're only dealing with what? 10 to 15. Football, you're dealing with 75 to 100. Though you can't put but 55 out on the field at one time. Those are some of the conference rules.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't let your expectation. And that's what happened to Winston-Salem State, in my opinion. In my opinion only.
Yes, sir.
The expectations here in the surrounding area, the Piedmont area, that they just expect you to win. They don't care nothing about you're talking about resources are short or whatever. They want you to win. And that's that makes a whole lot of difference. So now, to spin back and bring it to where we are now, very briefly, when Coach Gaines, I was the assistant then, when Coach Gaines decided that he wanted to change not necessarily change the image now, because Gaines always wanted a basketball school. But when he wanted to listen to the alumni about getting a quality football team, that's when he went across the street, across the tracks, and got a Bill Hayes.